Hey everybody, today we are talking about dividing integers. So our objective for the day is that I can divide integers using models and my past knowledge of division, and that I can also use the relationship of division and multiplication to solve problems and understand the integer properties. So first of all, remember today we talked about what is division. So I narrowed it down to these three things that we talked about today. There was more that everybody said, but we narrowed it down to putting things into equal groups, that it was the opposite of multiplication, and that it is repeated subtraction. Okay, so knowing it's related to multiplication is part of knowing that these principles that we learned last week for multiplication are also the same for division. So you can see here, I've listed all of these just like we did last week. Positive times positive equals positive. So same is true for division. I also wanted to expose us to writing division as this fraction. So this is saying positive divided by a positive equals a positive. So we can use that fraction bar is also going to be seen as division. You will see that quite a bit this year. A negative divided by a positive or a positive divided by a negative is negative. So remember, opposite signs make it negative. And then negative divided by a negative is positive. And so we can use fact families to kind of show why this is true. And so if you remember fact families probably from elementary school, we take three numbers, we take a math fact. So we take, let's say 9 times 3, or 3 times 9 equals 27, right? So now we can rewrite three other true facts using those exact three numbers. So 3 times 9 equals 27. That means I can switch the factors and say 9 times 3 also equals 27. Now I show my division facts by saying 27 divided by 9 equals 3, and 27 divided by 3 equals 9. The same is true when we do these negative and positive numbers. So let's prove it. So 3 times negative 9. That equals negative 27. Right? So we learned that last week. A positive times a negative is going to be negative. I go negative 9 3 times, I end up on the negative side. Same for this one. So remember, I'm using the exact same three numbers. 9, this 9 is negative, so my 9 over here is negative. Negative 9 times 3, still negative 27, right? Order doesn't matter for multiplication. Now, negative 27 divided by positive 3 equals negative 9. And this negative 27 divided by negative 9, then it has to equal 3. So a negative divided by a negative has to be that positive 3. All right, so it's just proving that fact. So then let's try it with the negative 3. Should be the same. So now I'm just changing the 9 to positive 3 negative. It's the same, negative 3 times 9, negative 27. Positive 9 times negative 3 equals negative 27. Now here's my negative divided by a negative equals positive 9. And then negative 27 divided by positive 9 equals negative 3. Now I'm showing my two negative multiplied. And as you can see, you can just see the pattern that I'm always going to be able to prove that I can go back to these facts here and say, okay, I can always see these are going to be true. So I just wanted to give us a couple examples today for how this might be used. A machine drill is used to access water underground. If the machine drills the same distance each day, what is the change in the location of the bottom of the hole each day? So it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4 equal times, and the water is going to be at 160 feet below ground level. So remember, if we're thinking of below ground level, we're thinking in terms of negatives. So how we would solve this is simply dividing 160 divided by 4. And we don't know, but we're saying that that's going to be our question. So how many feet did they drill each day? Well, if you want to work backwards and say, well, what number times 4 equals negative 160? You can work that way. So again, that's just like using our fact family. So if you know that 40 times 4 equals 160, so that means negative 40 times 4 equals negative 160. Or you can work it out using division. So 160 divided by 4. Okay, and using partial products, you can go, well, 4 goes into 100. I know 25 times. That leaves me with 100. I'm left with 60. 4 goes into 60 15 times. Subtract. So this I'm just using my standard division rules here. And so I'm left with a remainder of 0. So now I have 25 plus 15. And that's going to give me 40. But remember, this was a negative 160. So now I have to use my rules and go back. Okay, so it's negative 40. So that's my two ways. I can just work it backwards, or I can use, division if it's going to be a trickier division problem by using my algorithms that I know. So my answer is negative 40. Well, what does that mean in terms of this problem? Well, what is the change in location of the bottom of the hole each day? All it's meaning is how far are they drilling down each day? Well, they're drilling down negative 40 feet per day. So hopefully you're finding that that's pretty simple to figure out, and that negative numbers aren't scary or anything like that. It's just going in the opposite direction. These ones, again, are more just practice of how we could solve these. And it says find each quotient and plot it on the number line. So negative 8 divided by 4. So you're thinking, okay, what number times 4 equals negative 8? Well, that's going to be negative 2. So you can plot that one right there. A negative 21 divided by a negative 7. So negative divided by negative is going to be positive 3. You could also think to yourself, what number times negative 7 equals negative 21? Well, positive 3 times negative 7 equals negative 21. Negative 4 divided by 0. Well, negative 4 divided by 0 doesn't exist, so I don't know why they put that there. You can't divide anything by 0. Same with that one. We'll cross those off. Then negative 25 divided by negative 5. So negative divided by negative is a positive. And it's the same like our multiplication facts. 36 divided by negative 9. So positive divided by a negative. That's going to give me a negative 4. And then we can do 0 divided by 8. That's just going to give us 0. We just can't divide anything by 0. So that is our goal for the day, and hopefully that makes sense after me going through it in class, and you can rewatch this video as many times as you want. But we're hoping that we can now be able to multiply and divide integers using models and your past knowledge of multiplication and division, and that you can use that relationship of both to solve the problems and understand how their properties relate.